Right. This is going to be a 10-year review on the Airsoft Masterpiece hi-capa slide. So I got this in the year of our Lord 2016, towards the beginning, in sort of February, March-ish, maybe January. I'm not sure exactly when I got it. I just know I got it at the beginning of the year. And it is now 10 years later, in the year of our Lord 2026. And at the time of this recording, it is near the end of January. Now, this has been, over these 10 years, this has been my main hi-capa slide. I've used this slide more than any other slide that I own. So there's quite a bit of wear on here from all sorts of different parts that I've used, as well as just the normal wear and tear. And I'm going to go over sort of the wear that I have on the slide and what causes the wear and how to mitigate the wear. And then I'm also going to just do a general review at the end after I go over all the wear that you can expect to see over the lifetime of your hi-capa slide. First off, the first point of wear that we're going to talk about when it comes to the hi-capa slides is right here where the guide plug sits. So you can probably see there's a silver, basically a silver ring all around the bottom here where the guide plug is supposed to sit. And that's normal wear that happens over time. And that happens from two different things. The first thing is just when you initially put in your guide system, usually most people will let go and then this will spring forwards and it slams in, and that slowly causes some visible wear on here. And it also happens during the normal cycling of the gun. So when you have your whole recoil system in there, whenever the gun shoots, it's going to slam like so, and then you're transferring all this energy between the back of the guide rod to the guide plug, which then goes into the slide, and that will slowly over time wear away the slide. Usually this doesn't cause any major issues, but you could experience some like mushrooming, or you could get an indentation where it will cause the guide plug to sit too far forwards and sort of like stick out like beyond the slide. I don't have that issue on mine, but that is a potential issue that can happen. Now, the ways to mitigate this is the first off, which this is something that most people do anyways, like without even thinking about the wear that it kind of solves. If you add some short stroke buffers, specifically rubber ones that are soft, these will dampen the impact between the guide rod and the guide plug that goes into the slide. And so any sort of rubber or soft short strokes buffers will reduce the wear that happens on this part of the gun. And usually people go overboard, which is fine, but even just doing one buffer is going to make a big difference in the grand scheme of things here. Also, you can be mindful of the actual material of the guide rod. So these Airsoft Masterpiece slides are 70 series aluminum that have been anodized. So if you go with anything softer, that's going to reduce the amount of wear that happens on the slide. So if you go with a raw aluminum, that will be less hard than the anodized aluminum. Or if you go with a 60 series, that will also be softer than the 70 series. Or you could even go with a like a Delrin one. So this is a all Delrin, 100% Delrin. This is a plastic guide plug. And this is going to cause zero wear at all inside of your slide. And I actually, I used this guide plug for probably 4 years maybe, as like the main guide plug that I used. And I have not broken this yet, but you do need to definitely be mindful that these are way easier to break than a normal aluminum or a steel guide plug. So you want to use some softer springs, and maybe also use some buffers to dampen the recoil if you're going to use plastic. But this will not cause any wear on the actual slide here. And the worst thing you can do as far as wear is concerned is use a steel guide plug. But I personally have been using a steel guide plug for the past almost year. I've been using this one here. I like this one because it has this part that sticks up, and that kind of just will perfectly mate with the front of my slide, which I like. And this is steel, so this is never going to break, but this will cause a lot of wear on your slide over time. So if you use a steel one, you just need to make sure that you use some softer recoil springs and maybe some buffers, which I'm doing the buffers for sure. And for a very long time, I don't know exactly how long, I've been using Airsoft Gateway hi-capa springs, which I think are like 125% or something like that. So they are stronger than stock, but they're not crazy. And it's been fine for me. I don't have any severe wear. I just can obviously see that there is wear that's building up there. Okay, next up, we're going to talk about the wear that gets caused by your outer barrel. So the outer barrel actually has a bunch of places that it's going to slowly sort of wear away the slide. First off, up here at the front, you can probably see that on the inside of my slide, it is basically all silver here at the bottom, and it runs basically all the way that it can, where it has a bottom to this radius here. So there's silver that runs all the way down on both sides, and that is caused by like barrel drag. So like obviously gravity is going to make the barrel want to droop down because it's connected back here on the gun. So the front is going to want to dip down when it pivots on the slide catch pin, basically. So it's going to be pushing down, and that's just going to obviously make it so it wants to rub on the bottom, and that will get worn away and polished over time. Now, I have used a bunch of different barrels in this over its lifespan. Right now I'm using an aluminum barrel, which as you can see on it, there's not much wear. There's only a tiny bit of wear right here. It's like basically like a little scratch, and on the other side you can barely see anything, any sort of wear. So all of this damage on the inside of my slide is caused from a different barrel besides this one. I believe that most of the damage was caused by, for a long time, I had a cow steel fluted outer barrel. I believe that caused most of this damage, but I don't know for sure. But again, you can do the same material choice thing where you get softer materials to reduce the amount of wear, or in the case of this, there is some solutions that you can do. So basically the solution to make it so that way you don't get this wear at the bottom of the slide is to make sure that there is no sort of barrel drag. So first off, the first thing you need to do is you need to make sure that your outer barrel has a very good connection to the inner barrel. So you don't want it to be like rattling around. If it rattles around, that's not good. You want it to be able to lock into place and be very solid and sturdy. If it can like rattle like loosely, that's not good. And that is going to basically give it the wiggle room that it needs to be able to droop and cause wear. And you can do this just by obviously making sure that your outer barrel and your hop-up chamber are not worn down or anything. It's best if they are the same material, so that way they don't wear at each other that much. But you may need to put some shims inside, or some like some O-rings to make it so it stays connected solidly. Also, once you have the outer barrel and the inner barrel so that they are all good and tight, you need to make sure that the inner barrel hop-up chamber is connected to your gun well. So you need to make sure that it is a tight fit. So basically there should be almost no wiggle. If you try to wiggle the inner barrel, it shouldn't wiggle up and down inside the frame. Obviously, you will typically have the pin connected, but mine is tight, so it's going to be tight without the pin. If your gun is going to be a little bit loose, so on a lot of times you'll have this sort of wiggle going on. That's not good. You want to shore that up, and you do that like so. Now it's on, or actually it's not quite on. It's on now, so now it's tight. It doesn't really wiggle. To shore that up, you need to add some shims inside of here to make it tight. So where my screwdriver is, so some shims in here to make it tight on the frame so it doesn't wiggle around that much. Now obviously you need to, when you do this, you need to test it with the pin, because the pin If you go too much shims on one side, the pin won't be able to go through straight anymore. So slow and steady wins race. You slowly need to shim it until it's the proper tightness on the frame. And then once this is tight, and then it's tight on the barrel, the gravity is not going to be able to pull it down. So you're not going to get any sort of increased wear on the inside of the slide. Another thing to mention is, you can probably barely see it, but essentially around the entire like corner up here on the top, there is some visible wear. That is normal. You can't really mitigate that. So that happens because the way these outer barrels are, they are skinny here at the base, and at the end they get thicker. And that is just to make sure that it sits nice and flush. So as you can see right now, if it's only partially in, there's a lot of wiggle room in there. But when it gets farther in, it basically gets zero wiggle, essentially. And that's just going to happen over time. You can't really fix that except for getting a better material choice, like if you go with a softer material than a slide. But that wear is going to happen no matter what. It's always going to rub there, and there's nothing you can really do about that. Next up, inside of your gun, one of the important things that sort of like locks the gun up essentially is how the back of the outer barrel interfaces with the inside of the slide. So if it does not have a good connection, like if it gets too worn away, what can happen is when your slide's on the gun, usually the slide at the back here will be like perfectly lined up, so it'll be very smooth, like a perfect line up. If it gets worn away too much on the inside, which is the places that I'm going to show you in a second, if it gets worn away too much, it can sit forwards like this. So now you can see that there's a sort of a hitch in the smoothness. It's no longer smooth, it's sticking forwards. Obviously this is a little bit exaggerated. It usually doesn't go this far, but you want it to be smooth. Over time it can wear away and get this little sort of hitch in there, like so. That's also very common on low quality slides from other brands, is they don't have it quite perfect, and so it sits a little bit off. On Airsoft Masterpiece slides, they will usually sit perfect as long as you have a good, like an Airsoft Masterpiece outer barrel as well. And your hop-up chamber is in spec too, because your hop-up chamber can cause that to be wrong. Like if the pinhole here on the bottom is a little bit shifted one way or the other, that can cause the whole system to be a little bit off. But we're talking about the slide here. So the slide, basically, this right here, this face right here, and then this one up here, and then also on this side right here, these all are going to contact inside of the gun. So if I put this in here, you should be able to slowly see how when I close it, all of those impact back there at the back. And that's normal. That's what makes sure that it's the proper like alignment. But over time, what happens is you get a lot of wear. So on this slide right here, on this lug, this is the super chunky one. So this is the thick one right here. There's a lot of wear here. So you can see there's no orange left, but that is very superficial on mine. It's not very deep. It doesn't really mushroom out that much. There's a little bit of a mushrooming, but not a large amount. It's relatively flat and at the correct dimension on that lug. However, on the lug on the other side, which is this skinny one right here, there is a very intense mushrooming out, and it is not the correct dimension. It is definitely recessed quite a bit, and there is a large like overhang that's going on here, and that's been caused by a lot of wear over time. And that is kind of, you're going to see a lot more wear on this one because this is the skinniest one. It's very thin compared to this lug up here, which is pretty thick. And then it also will impact back here on the top of the chamber. It'll impact, but I have essentially no wear there, but you can experience wear there. Now the ways to mitigate this is basically just to have a high quality outer barrel. If you stick within the same brand, you should be fine. So if you have a Masterpiece or Edge or Guns with Rose or any of those similar slides made in the Airsoft Masterpiece factory, just go with also a Masterpiece barrel or Edge or Guns with Rose. Because they are going to be designed from the factory to work properly together. I have, of course, over time used a bunch of different outer barrels. I personally believe that the intense wear on this one side is from the Cow steel outer barrel, is my personal opinion, although I don't know for sure. But this Airsoft Masterpiece one fits in here nice. It doesn't touch the intensely worn part, but it does contact the thick lug as well as the one that's on the top, and it touches that perfectly fine. And again, material choice, again, is going to be an important thing in this. If you want to reduce the wear, you need to go with an aluminum outer barrel, or you can go with, there's not really any good plastic ones on the market, but you could use the stock one sometimes. Lately, the stock ones have not been working in the Airsoft Masterpiece slides, but that is what it is. Now, also, while we're talking about this, these lugs, the thick lug is going to experience over time some wear back here on the back side, and there is a large amount of wear back here. There's almost like a sort of a chunk taken out of it. It's kind of been rounded over time right here. I don't know if you can see that, but that is caused by impact inside of the frame here. So right here, this one, the fire pin return right here, this one will cause wear on the inside of the slide. And basically, it is going to, I don't know if I can really show this. I don't know if you can see in there, but you can see it will hit like so. And because that firing pin return is usually a hard material, like if you were going to upgrade your gun, you definitely want that to be steel. That's going to be significantly harder than the slide, because the slide is just going to be 70 series aluminum, whereas that little firing pin return is a piece of steel. So that's going to cause a lot of wear over time, and there's nothing you can really do to mitigate that unless you somehow get a perfect blowback unit. And you can see on this blowback unit, there's also wear up here. And there's a little silver piece there. And that is caused by the same thing. That is caused by that firing pin return. Because when this is in the gun, you know, in the ideal world, it would sit flush like so. So you can see how it's like perfectly lined up here. But usually these blowback units do not fit like that. So if I were to tighten the screw in, it would be like this. So you can see how there's a large gap now. And that gap is all it needs for it to cause a bunch of wear from it bouncing up and down and getting sort of stuck in that little crevice there. Because it doesn't sit flush like so. It sits back with an open gap like so. So flush, gap, flush, gap. It's never going to be flush unless you do some sort of a custom mod to get it perfect. And while we're talking about that sort of thing, also on the other side here, the disconnector, these will usually be steel as well. And this is going to cause wear on the slide, but this is only going to cause wear in a specific circumstance. So when you put your slide on your gun, the back here is going to impact like so. So as you can see, it impacts. And the only way to get rid of that is to manually hold down the disconnector when you slide it over, but nobody has time for that. So just expect that over time you're going to get some wear, and you can see that here. You can see that little silver part there, and that just is basically, this is a 90-degree corner essentially, and it's just being slowly rounded down over time because of that impact. And that, like, honestly is not going to be very big. It is definitely kind of annoying because it makes it not perfect. But next up, more wear on the inside back here. The only place that's really going to get wear, like I'm not perfectly cleaning this, so there's some like dirt in there, but the only place that has wear is right here on the top, that silver, and that has actually been rounded out. It's been like smoothed over time, because this on my slide has a bunch of ridges on it. It is not like a curve, it has a bunch of ridges, but where the silver mark is, it has worn down so much that it is now like a curve, essentially. And that is caused from your nozzle spring. So the way that you can like sort of fix this is if you just get a nozzle spring that is the correct size. So like this one's the correct size, it sits in the blowback unit like properly. This is not going to cause that much wear. The issue is a lot of times the springs will be the wrong size. They'll be like a little bit too long to sit flush in this channel, and so they will bow upwards. Let's see. So this is obviously exaggerated, but you can see how the spring is bowing upwards. A lot of springs will naturally sit like that inside of the blowback unit, and that will cause them to just rub on the top inside the slide. And that's just going to slowly eat away at it over time. And obviously the way to fix that is just to get a spring that's the correct length to sit in here properly. Now it is still going to wear over time up there, but it's not going to wear anywhere near as much. And I've used all sorts of different nozzle springs. I've used many springs that are like way too long in here just to get extra strength out of them. And so I have quite the exaggerated sort of wear in here just from those strong springs. This one, however, I don't think this one's really causing much wear just because it sits properly. There's no other wear on the inside back here. The only other wear that I didn't talk about is up here. I have some little wear on here from like contact with the outer barrel, and these are the recoil lugs. These are important if you have a dropping barrel. If you don't have a dropping barrel, it doesn't really do anything. And this type of wear, because I don't use dropping barrels, has just been caused by outer barrels that have maybe been a tiny bit out of spec, or maybe not properly fitted with like in regards to it sitting together on the frame. But usually you're not going to get much wear up here unless you use a cheap outer barrel, or it's not properly sitting in there. Next up, back here, so I've been using this slide for 10 years. I don't use a hammer protection pad. I just let it be, so the hammer the slide will hit the hammer without any like extra protection there. So obviously when it's sitting fine, it's not touching, but whenever it shoots, it will start moving back and it will impact the hammer. I have used a steel hammer for probably like 90% of the time that I've had this slide, and there's not any severe damage. It's not super mushroomed out or anything like that. I can still easily remove and replace the blowback unit screw. It just is a cosmetic difference on there. That's probably going to be hard for you to see. But yeah, it just has some cosmetic issue going on. It's not actually any sort of functional issue. And I've used some very strong hammer springs. I do typically stay close to stock though. So I honestly don't know what's in here right now, but it's probably going to be a 110 or 120 or something like that. I don't go crazy with the hammer spring because I want my gun to be able to cycle smoothly. And the stronger the recoil, or stronger the hammer spring is, the less smoothly it can cycle. So I don't go crazy with this, but this is definitely a stronger than stock hammer spring, and I have had this in here for quite a while without any sort of like large amount of damage or anything like that. Now, that's essentially all of the wear caused by parts except for these slide rails. So as you can see on the bottom here, almost this entire side here is all silver. It's been like polished over time. This side is only like halfway silver. The other half is still like all orange. And this just happens over time. So when you fit your slide to your gun, I recommend you do not like sand the actual slide. If you need to do any modification, do it on the frame. Don't do it on the slide. The slide will slowly work its way to perfectly fitting the frame over time. So over time, especially if you use one frame and never change it, over time it'll get perfect for that frame. I have put this slide on a bunch of different frames. I've put this on 4 frames over the lifespan of the slide. I've had this on 4 frames for an extended amounts of time. So this slide is not perfect for any frame. It has sort of worked its way to work nice and smoothly with all my frames, but over time it'll just slowly turn silver as it gets polished, and it will just perfectly match the frame. As you can see on this one, this is the latest frame that I have. There's almost no silver on here just because this slide has been worn so much. There's almost no sort of issues that it has fitting on this. But on this frame, which this frame I had this slide on this frame for a very long amount of time. I really only have wear on the bottom up here. As you can see, that silver there, and then back here a little bit, some silver right there, and then this has silver here. That's sort of the only places that I have wear on this one. And basically those spots must have been just a little bit raised up, so over time during the action of the gun it slowly turned them to be smooth instead of having a little bit of a bump like what used to be on it, supposedly is what I would assume. Also up here, right here on the edge of where the guide plug goes, there's these little sort of like pieces that jut out a tiny bit. So you can see right here, that silver like rectangle. That is also a part that sort of mates it to the frame. So over time that will get the same thing where it slowly gets smoothed out over time and turns silver. That'll happen up here as well. And also back here as well, at the back of the slide, it gets a little bit bigger as well, just to get it so it kind of properly matches up. So essentially, it gets bigger at the back so it perfectly fits and you don't really see a large gap. But during the actual function of the gun, it is not as tight. It's only tight right there at the back when it's lined up. Once it moves past being lined up, it's no longer tight. It's kind of free to move. And the same thing is true at the front, although it's hard to see. It's a big gap at the bottom, but at the top is where those two pieces kind of contact inside of the frame. I don't know how well I'll be able to show this. I don't know if you can see how those little pieces essentially come in to sort of guide it inside of there. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. But that's essentially all of the actual wear that I have on the slide. Everything else on here is sort of just normal wear and tear. So obviously on these little corners on the outside and these edges, you will slowly get that to turn silver and wear down over time just because it's like a corner or an edge. It's just going to happen. However, I do also have on this side, so not this side, but on this side, I have these silver marks that go right here. That is from a thumb rest I was using. So the thumb rest obviously would be sort of like so. So my thumb was like right here-ish or so. The thumb rest was not perfect and it was sort of tilting into the slide and slowly scraping away. And I didn't notice that at first because I kind of put the thumb rest on and went and played. And after I played, I realized that it was causing an issue. So I kind of stopped using it. But just be mindful of any sort of thumb rest you put on or thing that kind of hugs the slide. You could have an issue where it causes some extra wear. I also had a similar thing back here, so you can't really see it very well, but on the top of the cat up here, there's some little silver wear, and I have that on both sides back here, although this one's in a different spot, and that is caused from a thumb safety that I had. So not this one, but I had a it's the same brand as the thumb rest was. I had both of them on at the same time. So the thumb rest as well as the thumb safety were both sealed project, and I had them on at the same time. And they're both causing wear to the slide because they weren't perfect. And they were a tiny bit rubbing. So the thumb rest only rubbed when I would flick it between fire and safety. But the thumb rest was like that when I would just rest my thumb on it. Also up here at the top, right here, I have like some wear right here, and it's like that on both sides. I have some wear, and that is from a red dot mount that I had on that when the red dot comes a little bit loose, it can vibrate a little bit and slowly cause wear. So you need to be mindful of that. Every single sort of like red dot mount that goes into the dovetail is going to be a little bit different, and you definitely want them to not be able to move or wiggle or anything like that, because it will cause wear on it. All right, so that basically concludes my sort of 10-year like experience with Airsoft Masterpiece Slide. I've shown sort of all the wear that I've experienced and how to mitigate it. Hopefully you guys will be able to put into effect some of the things that I mentioned if you want to increase the lifespan of your slide, because these slides are essentially an investment. They hold on to their value very well as long as you take care of them and they don't go too bad. So like mine here is in still pretty good shape. It's definitely not like a good like example of like a well taken care of slide, but it's not in bad shape for sure. And this is a pre-COVID slide. The pre-COVID Airsoft Masterpiece slides are significantly better than the post-COVID slides. If you ever see a pre-COVID one, you want to buy it because there is a massive difference. Essentially what happened is during COVID, all the factory workers left and got jobs elsewhere. So they sort of had to get an entire new staff, basically, that didn't have the same experience as the old staff. The post-COVID slides are still really good. They are the best on the market that you can currently get. They just are not as good as the pre-COVID slides. And still, like the post-COVID slides, they are still going to be better than anything else you can find on the market. Everybody tries to be like Airsoft Masterpiece, but nobody is really able to. So you have all of these new companies releasing their hi-capa slides, but they never quite reach the quality level of even the post-COVID Masterpiece slides. And when I say Masterpiece, that's kind of a general term for all of the slides made in the same factory. So like Edge and Gunsmith Bros are both made in the Airsoft Masterpiece factory. I personally, out of the three like most common brands made in the factory, the Gunsmith Bros right now is probably the best choice. They seem to have a little bit better quality control compared to the Edge or Masterpiece. But it is basically just a rebrand, essentially, is what it is, of the same slides. But other companies, like right now in America, obviously you have like hi-capa is a popular slide company. Same thing with the CTM Tac. They're a popular slide company in America. And then there's also a newish one. I think it's like Minnesota Airsoft Mirage slide or whatever, that seems to be popular. Those are all made in different factories. They're not made in the Airsoft Masterpiece factory like these are. And there's a noticeable difference in quality level. And to this day, whenever I build a hi-capa, if it's going to be for me or for somebody that I care about, I do use an Airsoft Masterpiece slide. I wouldn't dare put any other slide. Again, when I say Airsoft Masterpiece, I just mean anything from that factory. So that includes Edge or Gunsmith Bros. For anybody who I care about, I honestly wouldn't put any other brand onto a hi-capa, because there just is there's no competition, really. Like, it is either Airsoft Masterpiece or like second class, like low quality slide. That's kind of like, even if it's the same price, there's no comparison at all. And that's not without trying. Like, I've tried, like I have installed a lot of hi-capa slides. I've installed a lot of them, and the hi-capa slides are fine. Like, they're not terrible. They just are nowhere near as good as the Airsoft Masterpiece slides. You can definitely get hi-capa stuff to work fine. It just is going to take a lot more effort, and it's not going to be the same fit and finish and quality level that you would expect from Airsoft Masterpiece. One of the other companies that I guess I forgot to mention when I was talking about popular slides in America, there is also the Dr. Black slides, which are very popular. They seem to be very high quality machining. They do seem very nice. The only issue is they're made out of 60 series aluminum, not 70 series. So they are going to be noticeably weaker, and they're going to wear down a lot faster. I don't have much experience with the Dr. Black slides. I do need to. Maybe at some point I will do a full Dr. Black build. That might be fun, but at this point I've not had a chance to do that because that's going to be very expensive for a gun that I don't really need, because I already have, like, my main gun is all just fully decked out, which I'm going to do a video on soon. I'm going to do a whole overview of the current build that I have for my main hi-capa, because it is always changing, but currently I have it in a really good spot currently. I don't think there's much else for me to say, so I'm going to let you guys go. So have a nice day. Oh, I should mention also, before doing this video, I was just looking online. This apparently is the same type of slide that Demo has on his main hi-capa, which I believe he's had for about as long as I have. He obviously has a different color. I have orange, but we have the same Limcat Battle Cats. And this slide is pretty cool, because this one, usually you'll see them, they have ports on the top, like some holes up here, and they also have some skeletonization down here. But on this one, it's solid guide plug housing, solid on top. It just has these windows on the side, which I think are nice, because this is a decently heavy slide. This is not a super lightweight slide. It's very solid. It's not skeletonized like crazy or anything like that. But that's about it. Thank you for watching. Hopefully this video was useful for you. Have a nice day. If this video was useful for you, please make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps out a lot. Also, there is a link down below to our Discord server, and this is a Discord server with a bunch of YouTubers that are really awesome, as well as a bunch of viewers like yourself. And you are welcome to join. Have a nice day.